This is for educational purposes only. Today I'm going to talk about how vape cartridge distillate is made. Now there are three primary ways to do this. Now if you're a super chemist marijuana guy, understand that I'm trying to explain this to the average person in about 4 minutes. So I'm going to leave out a lot of steps and I'm going to run through it quickly. So if you've got suggestions or criticisms, leave them in the comments. There's three ways of doing extractions: using CO2, which is what most people are familiar with, whether it's supercritical or subcritical, using butane, or using alcohol. You take a steel container and you fill it full of trim. Sometimes it can be 50 pounds, sometimes it can be 500 pounds, depending on your extraction machinery. And then you pump CO2, alcohol, or butane through the plant material. And the alcohol, the butane, and the CO2 act as a solvent to dissolve all the plant components. So what you're left with is what we would call Rick Simpson oil, also called crude. Now, I'll have to say this. With CO2 extractions, you can adjust the pressures and the temperatures, so sometimes it comes out looking like peanut butter. It can be a bright orange or a bright yellow. But I think nowadays they can even do that with alcohols and possibly even butanes, because again, the industry is coming up with all sorts of more sophisticated refining methods, or extraction methods, I should say. So anyway, you take that extracted crude and you scrape it out of the metal container, and then you put it into a container with alcohol, and you put it in a freezer. Not your average family freezer, an industrial freezer that gets down to minus 30, 40, or 50 degrees. And you leave it there for 2 or 3 days. And that is called winterization. And what happens is the fats and the waxes precipitate out and rise to the top of the alcohol, not unlike chicken soup that's been stuck in the fridge. So you take that alcohol and you filter it under vacuum, okay? Because the fats and the waxes will clog the filter, so you have to suck them through. So it's a vacuum filtration. And then you take the fats and waxes, you throw them away, and now we have alcohol, big container of alcohol with all the dissolved cannabinoids and the important things. We take that alcohol and we put it into a rotary evaporator. And what this is going to do, it's going to heat the product while it's under vacuum. So it lowers the boiling point of the alcohol. So as the alcohol is boiled and evaporated off, and it's recaptured so it can be used again, what is left in the container of the rotovap is, again, a dark, sticky, icky, ugly looking crude, but that is going to be the magic stuff. You take that and then you begin to distill it. Again, we've got extraction, and now we've got refinement. We are going to distill that, and we are going to boil off and capture all the other plant components or the impurities that we do not want in the finished product. And as you distill it once, twice, maybe 3 times, depending on the method that's being used, you're going to remove more plant components, and you're going to ramp up the purity of the product, and it's going to look more golden and more appealing, until finally, when you're finally done, you've got THC, and again, depending on how good your chemist is, that can be about 90%. It's going to have a smell because you probably haven't removed all the terpenes. It's going to taste awful. But then you take that product and you mix it with terpenes. You can either mix it with the terpenes that you recaptured during distillation or extraction, or you can mix them with pre-flavored terpenes that you can buy from a lot of suppliers. And depending on what strains you like, and there are thousands of them, you just pick out Bubba Kush, Blue Dream, LA Confidential, Sour Diesel, whatever. You mix it in the appropriate ratios, and then you put it into a vape cartridge. And that's how you make vape cartridges. You have to think in terms of extraction first, and then refinement second. So again, if somebody is looking at CO2 extraction thinking there are no chemicals being used, you are using alcohol to help purify and refine the product. And one process is no better than the other. CO2, butane, alcohol, one is no better than the other. It all depends on how good or how smart your chemist is.